Let us now look at the next important aspect of simplifications, that is finding out square roots of a given number. Generally, finding out square root by the regular procedure takes a lot of time. That is called as long division method, and we end up wasting a lot of time by the time we get the answer. So let's see how can we find out square roots of a given number in a smart way. Since we have already learned how to find out squares, it will be easy for us to decide how to get the square roots. Here we are going to follow a simple 3-step procedure to get the answer. Before we take up the procedure, let us just understand what is the pattern to be followed for the unit space. We have already seen this pattern when we have learned 1 to 30 squares. Let us quickly revise this once again. Whenever a number ends with 1, its square root always ends with 1 or 9. Whenever a number ends with 4, the square root ends with 2 or 8. Similarly, if a number is ending with 9, its square root ends with either 3 or 7. When a number ends with 6, square root ends with 4 or 6. And we very well know that when a number ends with 5, its square root also ends with 5. So this pattern should be very clearly understood and remembered to find out square roots. The other very important point which I would like to add here is that the method which we are going to learn now is applicable only for perfect squares. That means by following the 3-step procedure that we shall discuss now, we can find out the square roots of only those numbers which are perfect squares. It is not applicable for imperfect squares. So that is one condition that we need to take care of. This method is applicable if and only if the given number is a perfect square. At this point, you all might be having a doubt that how should we decide whether the given number is a perfect square or not. Let me tell you friends, finding out whether the given number is a perfect square or not is really a very lengthy procedure. Lot of tests have to be performed before we come to a conclusion whether the given number is perfect square or not. But generally in bank exams, when the square root is to be found in case of simplifications, the number given is always a perfect square. Only when the question is given under approximations, the given number may or may not be a perfect square. So simply remember that if you have a question from simplifications where you need to find out square root in one of the steps, consider the given number to be a perfect square. Take it for granted that the number is a perfect square, apply the method that we will discuss now and get the required answer. Do not worry about whether it is perfect or imperfect. Why? Because as I've already mentioned, in bank exams we get always perfect squares. If it is a question from approximations, then the given number may be an imperfect square. So keeping in mind that the method is applicable only for perfect squares, let us also understand that these numbers that we are talking about here are all perfect squares. That means only when a number which is perfect square ends with 1, its square root ends with 1 or 9. Or only when a perfect square ends with 9, its square root ends with 3 or 7. Likewise, for 4, 6 and 5 also, the numbers have to be perfect squares. So let us now take up some examples and understand the procedure of finding out square roots of perfect squares. Now the given question here is, what is square root of 2401? As I've already mentioned, we have no idea whether the given number 2401 is a perfect square or not. But let us take it for granted that the given number is a perfect square and apply the method and see what is the answer here. Now the first step to be applied here is check the units place of the given number. Here the number is ending with 1. We very well know that when a number ends with 1, its square root ends with 1 or 9. So very clearly the square root of this number should either end with 1 or it should end with 9. That means units place of the given number will be 1 or 9. So that's the first step to be followed. First of all, decide what will be the units place for the given answer. Now the second step here is to leave the last 2 digits. Remember, always leave the last 2 digits. Now we need to find out that number which is immediately less than 24 and a perfect square. So what is a number which is less than 24 and a perfect square? We know that it is 16. Why? Because 4 square is 16, 5 square is 25. 5 square 25 is more than 24. Remember, we always have to go on the lesser side. So what is a number which is immediately less than 24 and a perfect square? Is 16. 16 is nothing but 4 square. So that 4 will be the tens place. So that is the second step of the procedure. That means now we know that the answer is either 41 or 49. Remember, the first step is to check the units place and find out what are the possible units places. Second step is to leave the last 2 digits, find out a number which is immediately less than the remaining part of the question and a perfect square. So that here comes out to be 16. So 16 is nothing but 4 square. So that is the reason we write 4 here. And now comes the third and the last step. In the third step, we have to decide which of these two is correct. Is the answer 41 or 49? Now that can be done in 2 or 3 different ways. The first method here to do that is, we can take exactly what comes between 41 and 49. That means the number which comes exactly between 41 and 49 is 45. What is 45 square? 2025. From the knowledge of finding out squares of numbers ending with 5, we know that 45 square should be 2025. The given number here is 2401. That means very clearly 2401 is more than 2025. 2401 is greater than 2025. If this number is greater than 2025, it is obvious that square root of this number should be greater than 45. So answer here has to be 49. Why? Because the number given is more than 2025. That means it is more than 45 square. If this number is more than 45 square, its square root will be more than 45. So 41 here is less than 45. That is the reason it is ruled out. And we can now say that the correct answer is 49. So 49 is the square root for 2401. So these are the 3 steps that we need to follow to get the answer here. The first step is look at the unit space and decide what are the possible unit spaces. Second step is to leave the last 2 digits of the given number, and from the remaining part we need to find out a number which is less than the remaining part and a perfect square. And the third step here is to check a square of the number which is exactly between the 2 possibilities, which is 45 here. 45 square is 2025. Now since 2401 is more than 2025, its square root should be more than 45. What is more than 45 out of these two? 49. So that is our answer. The other way to find out which of these two is correct, that means the other way to get the third step here is to check whether 2401 is closer to 40 square or closer to 50 square. For example, we know that 40 square is 1600 and 50 square is 2500. Now this number 2401, if we check 1600 and 2500, that means 40 square and 50 square, we find that 2401 is closer to 2500. If it is closer to 2500, its square root should be closer to 50. Why? Because square root of 2500 is 50 and square root of 1600 is 40. So the number here is closer to 2500, hence its square root should be closer to 50. What is closer to 50? 49. So that's the answer. So either you can find out the square of the middle number, or you can check whether the given number is closer to 40 square or 50 square, and accordingly decide what's the correct answer. So using these 3 steps, we can find out the square root of a perfect square in less than 3 to 4 seconds. Let us now take some more examples and get the clear picture here. The second one here is square root of 6084. Let us take 6084 to be a perfect square. Now as the number is ending in 4, its square root will end with 2 or 8. So that's the first step. Now the second step here is to leave the last 2 digits and find out a number which is less than 60 and a perfect square. And remember, it should be immediately less than 60. So what is less than 60 and a perfect square? It is 49. Why? Because 7 square is 49 and 8 square is 64. It is more than 60. So we want something less than 60. So 49 should be considered. Remember friends, 36 is also a perfect square and less than 60. But 36 cannot be considered here. Why? Because we are looking for something which is immediately less than 60 and a perfect square. So that has to be 49. That means very clearly the second step says that the tens place has to be 7. Why? Because 49 is 7 squared. So 7 comes in the tens place. So after the second step, we know that either the answer is 72 or 78. Now if we try to observe, the number 6084 is closer to 6400 when compared to 4900. See, the numbers here are 72 and 78. So the range will be 70 to 80. 70 square and 80 squares are 4900 and 6400. This number 6084 is closer to 6400 when compared to 4900. So very clearly answer should be closer to 80. What is closer to 80? 78. So 78 is the correct answer. Otherwise, we can find out the square of the middle number. What comes exactly between 72 and 78? 75. 75 square is 5625. Now if you observe, 6084 is greater than 5625. If it is greater than 5625, answer should be greater than 75. What is greater than 75? 78. So 78 is taken as the correct answer. So these 3 steps will give you the square root of the given number. Let us take one more example. Square root of 12769. Now here, as per the first step, as the number is ending in 9, square root should end with 3 or 7. Second step is to leave the last two digits. Now what is less than 127 and a perfect square? Less than 127 is 121. 121 is 11 square. That means very clearly the next part should be 11 in the answer. So the answer here either is 113 or 117. Now the third step is to decide which of these two is correct. Now exactly what comes between 113 and 117 is 115. What is 115 square? 11 into 12, 13225. And this number 12769 is less than 13225. If it is less than 13225, its square root should be less than 115. What is less than 115? 113. So 113 is the correct answer, and this gets cancelled. Otherwise, we can just see what is 110 square and 120 square. Why? Because the numbers here are 113 and 117. They lie in between 110 and 120. 110 square is 12100 and 120 square is 14400. Clearly, 12769 is closer to 12100 when compared to 14400. So answer has to be closer to 110. What is closer to 110 out of these two? 113. So hence 113 is the correct answer. So this is how simply apply these three simple steps and get the required answer. Alright friends, here comes the test for you. Let us see if you can get the answers for these questions right or not. And remember, going by 3 to 4 seconds per question, we can say that here 16 seconds is more than enough to get all the 4 answers. But because I am a little lenient, let us take it as 20 seconds. So you have 20 seconds to answer these 4 questions. And your clock has already started. Time up guys, let's see what are the answers for these 4 questions. The first one here is 7569. Number ends with 9. So 3 or 7. 3 or 7. Less than 75 and a perfect square is 64. 64 gives us 8. 83 or 87. Now exactly in between is 85 square. 85 square will be 7225. This number is more than 7225. So answer should be more than 85. So 87 is the correct answer. The next one here is 5776. As the number is ending in 6, square root should end with 4 or 6. Leaving the last 2 digits. What is less than 57 in a perfect square? That's 49. 49 gives 74. So answer is 74 or 76. Exactly between 74 and 76 we have 75. 75. 75 square is 5625. This number is more than 5625. So answer should be more than 75. 76 is the correct answer. The next one here is 1521. Because the number is ending in 1, its square root should end with 1 or 9. Leaving the last 2 digits. Less than 15 and a perfect square is 9. 9 is square of 3. So we get 31 or 39. Now exactly between them we have 35. Or otherwise if we go by the range of 30 to 40. 30 square is 900. 40 square is 1600. This number is closer to 1600. So answer has to be closer to 40. So 39 is the correct answer. And the last one here is square root of 12,544. As the number is ending in 4, square root will be ending with 2 or 8. Leaving the last 2 digits, we need to check what is less than 125 and a perfect square. That is 121. 121 gives us 11. So the second step says answer should either be 112 or 118. Now what comes exactly between 112 and 118? That is 115. 115 square is 13225. The given number 12544 is less than 13225. So answer should be less than 115. What is less than 115? 112. So 112 has to be the correct answer. Practice well on this technique and make sure that next time when you're supposed to find out a square root, you don't spend more than 3 seconds to get the answer.